Hello to all the listeners. My name is Dylan,
And I'm Dylan.
and we would like to thank you for taking the time to give us a listen. And if you do enjoy, please drop a like and subscribe for our weekly podcast, or even check out the clips that we post from each show.
You can also follow us at our Twitter on screen and then tune in each week Wednesday night for our weekly podcast streaming at DatDill on Twitch.
Thank you, and enjoy the podcast. All right, so starting off another great episode and great week of news coming at you. Everything from basically March Madness, Bulls talk, NBA talk, some NFL. We'll get into some NFL draft. I did watch all of the pro days on at least, I believe, the top 8 quarterbacks that I think in the draft, or at least I, have the kind of talk of being that top 8 in the draft. And then I have a couple other things we'll talk about just to kind of tease everything we're going into. But I did want to start with something that was kind of huge that at least happened, which was the Nikolai Vucevic traded to the Chicago Bulls. Now, he is a lesser known star in the league because of his play just not being as flashy or anything like that. He is an all-star in the league, and he's having probably the best year of his career. He's 30 years old, so he's basically, right in the middle of his prime. Probably got a couple of good years left in him. So the Bulls are really getting a great, pick up there as far as getting a center who's 7 foot tall, does a lot as far as having an all-around game, just being able to shoot the ball well, post up. He actually is a pretty good facilitator out of the center position too, which is helpful. He does play well off the pick and roll. He can hit some 3-point shots when he's open. He rebounds pretty well. His only thing that you can kind of knock him for is maybe that he's not the best, what I would call like rim protector, but he does everything so well enough that he's just an all-around great player and a great fit for literally any team. I mean, he's one of those players that just will slide in and automatically play whatever role he's going to need to play and play it to the best, that you're probably going to get in the league. So I really love what they did with it. And it does seem immediately like it's a little bit big of a deal. So Wendell Carter Jr. goes over. They're kind of done with him. I personally was kind of done with him too. He kind of felt like he was just too, he was just kind of too, I don't know, he's just too injury prone all the time. Like he had a lot of talent, and if he's healthy, he'll definitely be a good, solid defensive center in this league who can get you some rebounds, rim protect, all that fun stuff, and play pretty athletically with any athletic big that comes in the game. It's just I don't really feel comfortable with having him as like my go-to center for the whole season, just because he's inconsistent with being healthy and actually producing. And so I'm okay with losing him. I mean, when there was the draft going on, there was a trade proposal that I saw that was like him and the 4th overall pick, and it was the Golden State Warriors giving us the 2nd pick, and for us to basically turn around and draft Wiseman. And I thought that would have been a great trade because like I said, I understand that he was such a hard guy, hard thing, or hard whatchamacallit, a high draft pick. That's what I'm trying to say. He was basically a high draft pick, and usually with high draft picks, you don't want to part with them too quickly. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I was kind of done with him. The team was kind of done with him. Otto Porter Jr., he's got 1 year left on his contract. Yes, it's a massive contract. He also has been inconsistent with staying healthy. When he's on the field, he's pretty productive, but it's just too much money for a guy who's not out there consistently enough. So getting rid of both of those guys, totally okay with. 2 first-round picks sounds pretty big, but if you don't watch the NBA or know too much about the NBA, you don't fully understand that 2 first-round picks in the NBA aren't as important.
Don't matter.
They're just not as important because really you have to find those gems in the draft, and a lot of those players can happen in the 2nd round. Those players, a lot of times only 2 or 3 players in the draft, each draft every year, are going to be basically, 100% home runs. These are guys that are going to be starters in the NBA for a long time. Then you get a couple stragglers that kind of pop up out of nowhere in the draft that maybe went in the middle of the draft, kind of the picks between like 10 and 20. And then everything from like 20 to 32, it's very hit or miss on whether or not you're going to get a starter or just a consistent role player off the bench. So the Bulls here are expecting to be in the playoffs, which means that they'll have picks out of the lottery for those first round picks. And so they're really not losing as much as you would think. So really, at the end of the day, if they pull in an all-star, the Chicago Bulls finally have 2 all-stars in the league. And I did see the comment over here about not knowing who Vucevic is. Yeah, he's kind of one of those under the radar all stars, really. That just kind of he plays very well. He does everything super well. I mean, he's a great post up guy. He's got a great jump shot. He's developed. He can hit threes, like I said, when he's open. Or has the ability to. He can rebound pretty well. Like I said, the only knock in his game is that he's just not a great defensive player, or like as good of a defensive player as you would like. But in a league nowadays where maybe that's not as important as having a rim protector was in the early 2000s and things like that, it's not the end of the world. And I'd rather have an all-star on my team, because what it tells other teams is that you're really trying, that you're actually going to put a team together that will be productive. Because this is a team where if you have one of those big name guys that comes over, I don't know who it'll be, because I'd have to look at the free agency market. I'd have to see how it goes, trades, everything like that. But it's one of those where if there was a big name that was coming available and he looked at the Bulls and saw that basically the Bulls have two all-stars and a bunch of good role players around them, you definitely would want to join their team. Yeah, that's really what it is. And so in my opinion, like you said, the Bulls really do need one more guy to contend. That's kind of how I felt about this team for the longest time, is that LaVine, if he's your number two, is a really great player at a number two position, like number two scoring option, I should say. If he is your number one scoring option, though, I don't think your team's doing as well. So that I agree. I think they're basically one player away from contending, one good player from contending. So, but getting Vucevic basically tells everybody else in the world, like, hey, if you come to the Bulls, we already have two all-stars, a decent coaching staff, good role players around them in place for you to basically just step in and be that number one player. So
cool. Yeah.
And actually,
I don't follow the NBA too much anymore outside of drama and a couple of things about the Bulls. So I also had no idea who the hell he was as well.
Well, and it's that's why it was kind of surprising, because they also, like, not long before the deal was done, there was like a bunch of news about how like it was going to take a pretty decent package in order to pry him from the Magic, even though the Magic are rebuilding. So it's one of those where it was like really surprising that the Bulls were that far into the mix, because we're just so not used to it in Chicago, because for the last 20 years we basically just have punted on getting every single star that we can. I mean, you look at like players like Jimmy Butler or Derrick Rose, both of them were drafted. We didn't get them to come to our teams, nothing like that. Yeah, in Orlando is Orlando. I agree. It's Orlando has never been productive at all. They get guys like this where they're a superstar. They get some guys that are intriguing. Orlando moving forward is interesting, because they get rid of Vucevic, get a couple picks. They get rid of Aaron Gordon. They get a couple picks there. Fournier, they got kind of fleeced on that. Fournier, they lost him for like 2 second-round picks to the Celtics, I think it was. They got kind of fleeced there, but yeah, I mean, they do kind of look promising moving forward, because they have Isaac at small forward, who he needs to develop his scoring ability, but he's really talented, super big small forward who's playing very well defensively. And then they do have Fultz, if he can actually put it together finally. So they are kind of promising, but it is Orlando. So Orlando, they always do this. They like breed a star player here and there that then leaves and goes to a team that actually needs them.
Yeah. You know what's crazy too? I saw a video, or like it was a highlight thing. And I was like, who is that? And it was Russell Westbrook. And I was like, I completely forgot he was on the Wizards. Like it looked like it was something out of like a 2K game, just like make your own player or whatever. I was like, who the hell is that?
Yeah, and the funny part about Russell Westbrook is like, and I've always said this, I've always believed that Russell Westbrook is a great player. Don't get me wrong, one of the best, point guards / guards athletically and everything that we've seen in, a couple of years. But I've always had the same opinion about him, which is that I don't think you can win a championship with him as your point guard. But yeah, it was, I've never believed Westbrook to be a guy that you can win a championship with. And that's always been a thing that like, I just have always felt. And so when he was having all those, the triple double season, and he's making all these triple doubles, the problem with him is I don't feel like my problem with Russell Westbrook is really that like he pumps the stat line, but to me, he doesn't like if you watch him and Durant interact when Durant was there, like I know Durant's Durant and he has a certain like personality and attitude that can rub people the wrong way a lot of times. I mean,
well, that's a funny story too. Good transition, possibly.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me finish this thought with Westbrook. But if you watch him and Durant interact, there was plenty of times where it was like the shot at the end of the game where you have Durant kind of like I remember a couple times where I saw Durant wide open at three and Westbrook like drove and like took a jumper and I was like, dude, Durant's literally wide open right there. You're a point guard, just dish it to him. Like that's, like I get it that you're a star player and you want to take the shot, but like the better shooter on your team is Durant. The better star on your team is Durant. So you should take that shot. That's my only problem with him. That's why I've always felt like he was just, you couldn't win a championship with him. It's just because I don't think he's going to change his play enough to accommodate other superstars. And in the NBA, unfortunately, you really like it's rare that you win with only one superstar. You really have to have like a all complete team around you. And so it's one of those where like unless he is able to play with other superstars well enough to win actual meaningful playoff, you know, uh playoff series, then I don't think that you can ever really win with him. And now he's kind of fading, and now he's still trying to be the old Westbrook. I mean, he had a great stat line the other night, which is funny because the team's been terrible, but he had that stat line the other night where he dropped like 30 plus points. It was like 32 points and like 21 assists or something like that, and like 10 rebounds. Like it was ridiculous. But I mean, this is one of those where I'm like, you never see him facilitate well enough to the right guys, as well as like, I don't know, like I said, it's just things like, it just rubbed me the wrong way watching him pass up on giving the ball to like Durant during the Thunder days in the prime of both of their careers, where Durant could have easily had an open three to tie to win the game, and instead Westbrook kind of took the three himself and missed it or something like that. It's just things like that that rub me the wrong way about him, and that's kind of why I feel like he can't win it. But so that's kind of my thought on that. Now I know you said that you have funny transition to Durant. What was it that you were trying to get at?
Oh, well, one, there was a file that just came through that was 5 days ago, apparently, to our channel when we were offline. So I just put that through. But yeah, no, there was did you see like the drama or whatever that he like sent DMs to, it was like the actor Michael Rappaport?
Yes, I saw this whole thing. I saw, okay, that's actually, I see where you're just getting it. I saw this and I was like, what the hell is this? And I guess something about like, Barstool said something about him or something, like he's suing them for defamation or something. I didn't
I
exactly, I didn't read the story because I wasn't like, I don't know. It was one of those where I was like, what? And I actually,
Yeah,
when I read it initially, I thought it was to Ian Rappaport, and I was
I
like,
know.
why are they? It's like, why are they coming after Ian Rappaport? What did he do? And
Yeah,
then,
I know. I was trying to figure that out too, and I was like, what is this?
yeah, I guess it was something where like he essentially, like I guess he was suing Barstool, I think for defamation or something like that. And then he basically in private messages was like ripping. I actually thought it was a joke when I read the messages he would send. I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like this feels like it's a joke. Like somebody set this up when you're reading the messages.
Yeah,
It was wild, and they were like harsh too. I was like, dang.
a lot of nasty shit. Yeah, that came up in here. Obviously, not even this, but I didn't even see all of them because it was like literally pages upon pages of them. I'll try and see where it's
Yeah,
at or whatever.
and
But
like I don't know the whole story. I don't know if like what Rappaport did. Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
hate
I
Kevin Durant. I'll
agree.
just say that for the record. He just annoys me. I don't care about him. I know he's a good player. He's a
Yeah,
boring media personality. He's a prissy bitch, and every story that comes out about him just makes me hate him more. I could
no, I
not be more
agree.
bored with him than I possibly can.
That's what I was saying. Like I understand that Durant, like that's what I was talking about with the Westbrook stuff. Is like I know Durant is like he's just Durant. Like he's one of the most annoying superstars on the planet because he just does things that are like so stupid. And then he like tries to act like he didn't go to two super teams back to back, and like buddy, we know like you don't need to hide it. When freaking Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge are signing with the Nets, I'm not looking at the Nets going, "Wow, Durant really built something there." Like, no, I'm looking at the Durant's going, "Wow, how many superstars can we fit on a one team?"
I hope he actually cares and it actually bothers him that people don't consider him like a
It does
contender, like an
though.
actual challenge. I really hope it does. Obviously, you'd be stupid to, which he is, considering his position in the world. But I really hope it bothers him because it's so stupid.
Well, and the funny part too is that they like a lot of people point to uh Durant stepping
The
up his
fuck is this
game. Where,
Larry
like,
Bird looking motherfucker? I've never seen him before in my life.
Michael Rappaport, you haven't seen Michael Rappaport before?
I've like heard the name and the same thing like you. I thought it was Ian Rappaport. I was like, what the fuck is
No,
this?
Michael Rappaport. He's a comedian. He's also been an actor. He was in that Spike Lee movie. I can't remember what movie it was. It was Higher Learning. He was in Higher Learning. That was a really good. Was it Spike Lee? I don't know if it was a Spike Lee movie, but he was in Higher Learning. That was a really good movie. You should actually highly recommend that movie actually to everybody out there. Yeah, NBA. Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
You don't hear any of the small time teams because no one cares when there's. How many games are there in a regular season now? In a full season?
82.
Okay, yeah. Same problem with baseball.
Well, like he said, like he said, the NBA is a super team league. I mean, look at the this year. It's like the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Nets are basically it. And then there's those teams like the Nuggets and like the Trailblazers who are like super fun to watch and aren't just superstar after superstar after superstar and are like homegrown. But then it's just not entertaining to watch them when they end up going against like one of the Lakers or the Clippers of the world, because it's just they get beat down so bad because it's like, okay, you just don't have the talent. Like you just don't have the superstardom in order to do this. And then that's how I feel about like the East too with the Nets now. I mean, who is actually going to compete with them in the East? Like the Celtics? No, that's not happening. Like it's one of those where, I mean, I guess there's the Sixers are there, like, but the Sixers are just, I've never felt good about Ben Simmons and Embiid together. I don't know. They just don't seem to mesh as well as they should.
God, how old is Ben Simmons now? I feel like I've been hearing that he's going to be good for 20 years.
It's because he is.
Holy shit, he's 24.
It's because he's really good. He just refuses to like have a jump shot. Like, which in the NBA, you have to have a jump shot. Like, I don't
pay attention enough. I just feel like maybe that was when I last paid attention. He just kept on talking about him. He's like, yeah, he's going to get better. And there was like memes about him like actually making a 3-point shot. God, 24? I would have believed it.
Dude, he's been in the league like 5 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's how it is in the NBA. When you see a guy that's been in, like, that's like 32 years old, like that dude's been in the league for like 13 years. he's traveled. So but anyways, yeah, no, I've never felt good about Ben Simmons and them. And then I love, as much as I love Giannis, and I have a Giannis jersey, so like I loved Giannis. I've loved him since they got drafted, and I don't have any record of it, so obviously I'm talking out of my ass a little bit here. You know, you have to go on my faith alone. But and Craig will tell you, my best friend, or one of my best friends, Craig, who's a huge basketball fan, will tell you that I said back when Giannis was getting drafted that I thought Giannis was the better, or one of the best players in that draft. So,
yeah.
No, I know that's how a lot of people felt. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it's an international guy, probably a bust." I'd watched Giannis play, like I'd watched some of his film when he was in Greece playing, and it was just like watching a point guard just be that tall and big. And so it was one of those where I just felt like I was like, "Oh, this kid's super talented, like too talented." And I mean, that's what he's become basically. It's just the problem with the Bucks is I don't think they get enough talent around him, or the right talent around him, in order to win enough games to mean anything. So again, here we are with basically, the Hornets are fun to watch. The Knicks are actually somewhat fun this year. The Heat, of course, are the Heat. But then you have the Nets. Yeah, exactly. Can't finish against good teams. I mean, part of it's because he can't shoot very well. Yeah, he has a little bit of a jumper, but when you can't just pull up from three like Damian Lillard or something like that, like the reason why Damian Lillard and the Trailblazers are like still somewhat decent in games against really good teams is because Dame can just pull up from friggin' the logo and drain a three, and suddenly it's ignited and the game's close again. But with Giannis, he has to get his points from driving or just kind of a mid-range pull up, and doesn't really have an outside shot or anything that's effective enough in order to make him enough of a dominant player that he can basically take over a game. Whereas instead he kind of falls into the category of like, he's like just below like Durant and them. Yeah. And then, yeah, exactly. That's the other thing too. You can't hit free throws. If you can't drive and you can't hit free throws, it's like the same thing with Ben Simmons. I'm pretty sure Ben Simmons' free throw percentage isn't that great. It's the same thing. You just like, you can't drive all the time and be that that be the part of your game, or like the most important part of your game and most effective, and then not be able to hit free throws. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Ron has heard things all his career about how sometimes at the end of games he seems like he doesn't want to drive, and it's because he can't hit free throws.
I never understood that. That's like the stupidest like casual fan thing I always had. Is just like, how is free throws your worst aspect of the game? I hear that one, and I used to think it was stupid, but now I'm back in the camp of like, yeah, how could that possibly be the worst part of your game? I know it's like more mental than it is physical. I guess that's the biggest part.
Well, and that's like I said, it's one of the weirdest things for LeBron, who I think he's like a career 71% shooter who from the free throw line, which is not great. Like Michael Jordan was a pretty good free throw shooter. He was 84%. So it's one of those where LeBron being 71%, yeah, he does shy away from contact at the end of games. And it's because if he goes to the free throw line, I mean, it's, 3 out of 4 free throws he's able, or close to 3 out of 4 free throws he's able to make. So it's one of those where, like, if at the end of the game they need points and he gets fouled, you could potentially just get 1 point from him and that'd be it. That'd be a possession.
Yeah. I say
Anyway.
that, but I can't hit anything anyways. But yeah, it is. I guess it's mental. That's what I'm gonna chalk it up to. That's what it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, not tooting any horns here, but I made every free throw when I was in freshman basketball.
Really?
Yeah, never missed one.
That's a pretty large sample size, honestly. Even if it is freshman basketball.
Yeah, I actually hit 2 free throws at the end of the game to seal a game. We were up by like 1 point, or we were up by like 2 points, I think it was, and it was like they fouled me to try to like send me to the free throw line to get like the possession back with like the chance to tie the game or win it, and I hit both free throws and iced the game.
Wow, all those hours in the driveway doing that actually paid off. That's nice.
Yeah, my problem is I just can't dribble for shit.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest issue. I can hit a shot from anywhere, and I could probably make pretty layups, as you normally can, if you've done it a bunch of times. But I just freaking can't dribble to save my life. So there's no point. Like I'm basically a spot up. I'm like Kyle Korver, but like not good enough. Like So that's kind of the NBA news. And then the other thing too I want to mention real quick, before we move on from NBA, is Andre Drummond did get signed to the Lakers. That's a pretty big deal, honestly, because Andre Drummond is a great defender, great rim protector, and a great rebounder. And all of those 3 things help Anthony Davis basically play away from the rim, which allows him to just actually utilize his entire offensive skill set rather than worrying about playing defense or rim protecting. So I think that really helps the Lakers. And we talked about last week, the Lakers really trying to make a push for Lowry. Getting Andre Drummond was a much better move than getting Lowry, in my opinion, because if they got Lowry, it was going to gut their bench too much. And getting Drummond, they don't have to gut any of their bench, and they get a center who immediately plugs in pretty much at starting center and allows Anthony Davis, like I said, to play at the 4 position away from the ball, and allows LeBron to also be LeBron and have 2 guys who are there, and LeBron doesn't have to worry about, I know there's a lot of hate LeBron gets for like taking a little bit of time off on defense and stuff like that. I mean, now if a guy goes to a rim, I mean, he's got to go against Andre Drummond and Anthony Davis, so that's pretty difficult. So their defense gets an improvement. Their team basically just gets an improvement, which they kind of needed a little bit of a spark. So that'll probably ignite them a little bit. I still think in the end of the day, the Nets are going to win the freaking championship just on pure talent alone and production. But well, it's at least makes it entertaining, at least that there's a couple teams that could be enjoyable to watch. I don't generally watch the regular season because especially being a Bulls fan and just dealing with crap for the last 20 years. And Garpax, who, to sum up being a Bulls fan is thinking about how excited we could be to get LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, or Chris Bosh, and then instead getting Carlos Boozer. That's the epitome of being a Bulls fan.
Yeah.
You get too hyped. You get too hyped for like, oh man, we could have LeBron potentially. I mean, maybe not LeBron, but like D Wade come back home, and then
think of how much more fun that would have added to your childhood. A good Bulls team.
I actually would have enjoyed going to Bulls. Like I went to Bulls games and I've enjoyed the Bulls and I love the Bulls. But it's hard to watch like an injured Derrick Rose try to carry a team that's terrible, and then him leave, and then Jimmy Butler is the guy, but then Jimmy Butler is like pissed off because the rest of the team sucks, and so then Jimmy Butler leaves, and then we still suck.
Yeah.
And then we end up with the 7th pick every year. I don't know what it is, but we get the 7th pick every freaking year, every time we're in the lottery. So
Yeah, that is true. I don't know why that one's
we finally got the
particularly
4th pick, and that was amazing. But I think that was partly because they had like Artuvis. Because in my opinion, I think the lottery is like rigged. It's unbelievably rigged. Like it's ridiculous.
Got some conspiracy.
Well, it just is. You look at all the year. Look at the last couple of years recently. Like the year that Markelle Fultz was coming out, and he was clearly the number 1 overall pick. And then guess who was the number 2 overall prospect that year? Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball. All the talk of him was going to LA. He's going to LA. He's going to LA. Well, what if the Lakers end up with the 1st pick? They're not going to get him. They're probably going to draft Markelle Fultz. I mean, why wouldn't you? He was the better player. If the Lakers got the 3rd pick or lower, who are they going to get? I mean, if Lonzo Ball's gone at 2, what are they going to do? But instead, suddenly, shocker to nobody, the Lakers had the number 2 overall pick, which perfectly slotted them into draft Lonzo Ball to create that storyline. You know, that's the kind of crap. Same thing with like Anthony Davis leaving the Pelicans. What happened with Anthony Davis leaving the Pelicans? Oh, the freaking Pelicans win the lottery so that way they can get Zion. Because the Pelicans are a small market team and they needed another big name because their big name was leaving. So, and the NBA tries to get those small market teams to actually produce a little bit in order to get them a little bit more popularity. So that way, you know, we can continue, like they can continue on with that. So it's, to me, that it's rigged a little bit. There's at least some kind of line there where I'm like, yeah, it feels rigged. I know that they say it isn't.
Too convenient.
That's what I mean. It's just a little too convenient. You know, we always end up with the number 7 overall pick, like almost every year. And then what happens? The one year we get a new GM or new president, new coach. Artuvis is on. He's on camera, watching the lottery as the top 4 picks go, you know, and stuff like that. It's like it's just too like planned. Like it just seems like there's something there.
Yeah.
Every year, but. Anyways, that's enough of my NBA rant. We gotta move on. It was funny because we said that was going to be our quick topic, and then we spent like 20 minutes talking about it.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
All right, which one move on to next?
Let's see. Let's do March Madness because I thought March Madness was on tonight and it wasn't, and I'm pissed.
Come on, Dylan.
I specifically like slotted that in. I was like, oh boy, what are the game's gonna be on soon? And then it was like 7, and I was like, shit, did I miss the beginning of it? And then nope, no, here we are.
Nope, Elite 8 is over. Final Four is done. I'm pissed because both of my teams. I'm gonna lose this freaking thing.
Yeah, let's check out your bracket.
Oh God, do we have to? Like, do we have to take a look at it?
We can look at mine.
It's the top one, Dylan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, is this is an abomination at this point. I don't even know why I'm here.
Gonzaga you got right though.
Thanks, Dylan. Thanks.
That was a good safe pick and it looked like it worked out so well for you.
Oh yeah, it worked out spectacularly. I mean, you can see clearly by how many red lines I have all over my thing here. It was just bad. There was just too many games that I didn't call, you know, like USC against, I had Iowa in that game, but instead they played Oregon because Iowa dropped the frickin' ball in the previous game. So then USC won, and then USC somehow ended up making it past Oregon to Gonzaga. Gonzaga, of course, blew them out like they were a kids team. And then UCLA is somehow winning games. I don't know how it's happening. I don't know when they became this good. Houston is whatever. I mean, Houston's been winning close games. I think they're actually pretty dangerous. I think they're going to beat Baylor. At least that I'll give you my opinion on. I think they're going to beat Baylor. Granted, I have neither of those teams in the Final Four, so, you know, whoop-de-doo. But, yeah,
right.
Teams just disappointed me. Like, I did not predict Arkansas versus Oregon State or whatever it was, or Oral Roberts University. That's what it was. I didn't predict that game. So, like, the fact that Arkansas wins, what am I going to do? And then, you know, Oregon State in the game against Houston, like that was not a part of the plan. Like, yeah, I have Houston advancing, but that's, you know.
Sure. But hold up. March Madness being boring this year, like me as a super casual fan, there were so many upsets because of the COVID year. It was, I'd
Yeah,
say, like, I mean, even though, yeah, okay, yeah, I guess when you look at this, like, look at there's still 4 1 seeds in the final four, so whatever,
yeah.
because and then one, but still, it's different this year because because an 11 made it, but everything else that happened over here, there were so many upsets and
There
last
were a
minute
lot of
games and last minute shots and stuff too. I
yeah,
was
there were a
thoroughly
lot of
entertained.
exciting upsets. I think this year is different because I feel like I feel like why it's boring for him at least is, and I could say this for, I can get it, is that I feel like it's people just don't know these teams, like don't know any of these teams. So like when a team
Yeah.
wins, it's like, what am I like, am I surprised that UCLA has made it this far? Yeah, but like, did I know anything about UCLA going into
Nope.
this bracket? Like, no, I had no idea. I didn't even know
Still
where they
don't.
finished. Like maybe they got into the tournament winning the Pac-12. I don't remember. I don't know. I didn't see it. So yeah, the Big
Yeah.
Ten flopped, of course. Yeah,
Wah,
betting.
wah.
I really need to just stop betting on Ohio State. I'm such a diehard Ohio State fan, and I have such like a hard on for anything Ohio State as soon as they're good enough to like be good. And then
Yeah.
they just blow it in basketball. I just don't know why I always pick them in basketball, and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
They
That was
just
funny though.
nothing. Squat.
I get
So
entertainment out of it at least, even if it's your pain. It's still pretty funny.
yeah, well, I mean, at least I have football. There's that. I mean, granted, the championship wasn't spectacular, but we made it to the championship, so I'll take that at least. I, like I said, I get it that the tournament's been interesting for me because I just love college basketball in general. So I love watching these games, and I like watching the upsets. I like watching the endings of the games so far because they've been entertaining pretty much for some of them. I do understand though that like to a fan that doesn't enjoy college basketball as much as we do potentially, that it's kind of hard to watch when you don't know literally any of these teams. I mean, Gonzaga is the only one that you could recognize. Did anybody think, like, I didn't think Baylor was that good this year, and then I saw them pop up as a 1 seed and was like, I guess they are. Like like same thing with like Houston. Like I didn't know Houston was this good. Same with Arkansas. Like I didn't know Arkansas was that good. That's why I didn't pick them to go anywhere because I didn't expect them. I just it's kind of an odd year because there's just nobody and there's not a lot of recognition where I go like, oh yeah, I remember hearing so much about that superstar on that team, and no surprise that they're this far. Like it just hasn't happened. Yeah, Gonzaga's there. Now I will say, I'll tell you this much. I think if Gonzaga beats UCLA, I think that is the championship. I don't think anything is going to happen. I don't think the national championship is going to be as entertaining because I think if Gonzaga beats UCLA, Gonzaga is going to win the national championship. I just don't think Houston and Baylor are that strong on the other side.
Yeah.
Um,
No, so I was going to bring that up since you were talking about the last thing about the NBA with because you were talking about basically the championship and stuff,
yeah.
and it's going to come down to what like the Nets and the Lakers. You said like more or less.
Probably. I would assume so.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, the Clippers are going to be there, but the Clippers just don't do it. Like they just don't make that final push to get past the Lakers. So I'm assuming it's going to be Lakers Nets.
Yeah, so it's going off of that, and also like LeBron's injury being like it was like a high ankle sprain, right? And that's what
Yeah,
everyone's waiting
something
on.
like
It's
that.
probably gonna be limited. Yeah, so I was like, oh, I actually share that with him, and this is my ankle.
Like right now?
No, when I blew it up, and I think I actually had a similar injury that he did.
Jeez.
At least that he had it, so I feel the pain, and that was one of the worst things ever. I can't imagine coming back around in a couple of months, and well, a couple of weeks, maybe a month, 2 months, maybe by the time he comes back, and playing off of that because like I still could feel some of it. This is like a year and a half, 2 years on. Wild.
Yeah. I've never.
Ugh.
I mean, I've rolled my ankle all the time. I've done that so many times, but I've never like hurt my ankle that badly. I mean, just my knee was the big thing.
Oh
But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I
Yours is
mean,
bad.
huh?
Yours is bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a sprain, and then I went off crutches for after 5 weeks, and then I spent a year walking around on it before I figured out that it was the torn meniscus. That happens to all of us, right? Um,
Uh,
so yeah, next time definitely get a second opinion than just the emergency clinic where
oh
the
yeah.
person was just like, yeah, it looks like a sprain. I'm like, all right. She was like 6 weeks on crutches, and at 5 weeks I was just done with crutches and I just took them off. And then literally a year later, I was like, the knee's still bothering me. I should probably get it looked at. Oh, it's a torn meniscus. Okay, that makes sense.
My God.
So, yeah, fun. But
well, yeah, your brackets are pretty much blown up.
yeah, everything sucks. The only thing is in my other league, yeah, there's some Baylor's in there, some Houston's. In my other league, though, oh yeah, Tessa's killing it.
No, she's not. She's doing okay. Mine's killing it. I'm gonna come from behind.
Yours is killing it, Dylan. I
big
really
cheeser.
hope. Listen, the funny part is, Dylan, if Houston wins, not only do you win this bracket challenge, but my girlfriend also wins our family bracket challenge. So, Alyssa.
So are points weighted greater, like in these last matches or something, or like how?
Yeah, okay. You get a ton of points for predicting the championship game, and then you get a ton of points for predicting the champion. So it's funny because she has the exact same championship as you. So and the same outcome. So
exciting.
That's funny, but so I'm rooting for Houston. Honestly, I would love to see Houston just win it because they've never won it. And the last time they were good was I can never say it correctly. Is it like Phi Slamma Jamma? I think is what it was called. And that was when they had Keem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler, and they were just absurdly good for like 2 years, but they never won it. But yeah, so March Madness. I mean, it's interesting. We'll see how the Final Four goes in the championship. Like I said, I feel like if Gonzaga wins, they're probably going to win it all. But I would love to see Houston upset them. Although Gonzaga hasn't won it the last couple of years, even though they've been really good. So like, it'd be nice to finally see them go, over the hump and win one, but I am still probably going to end up rooting for. I honestly am probably rooting for a UCLA championship, just so I can watch those two teams go at it because I feel like that would be interesting.
Oh yeah, I'd be down for that. All right, what do you have to go over in some prospects?
Yes. Okay. Let's get on to what I did today, which is I watched all of the pro days. Or what I did is I watched all of the pro days for all of the quarterbacks, and I wrote my initial thoughts watching their throws and everything that they did, and kind of put like what I thought each quarterback, how they did, and everything like that. So, do you want to start at the bottom and go up, or do you want to start like with my current ranking that I feel like, or how do you want to do it? Do you want me to start from just the top of my rankings or bottom?
Let's do bottom. Keep me interested. Okay. To go the way up, but maybe I know some of the bottom people.
So, we're starting at the bottom. Flash over. You can pull up Jamie Newman. That is who I think is the bottom of the quarterbacks that I have available. And he's more of a day two guy. At least that's what he's getting talked about. That's the hype around him. So he was, I believe, at Georgia first. And that's what they have him listed at. He transferred to Wake Forest. Or maybe he was at Wake Forest, and then he transferred to Georgia. I can't remember which way it went. But basically, Jamie Newman, he's talented. He has some, like, watching his throws, because I don't think he had a pro day, so I couldn't watch his pro day, but I tried to watch like some of his throws just in game against like good talent. So like generally when I watch quarterbacks in college to kind of determine how I feel about them, and this is why, like, and just to kind of preface this too for those listening, I for some reason, not for some reason, I do a pretty good job of scouting quarterbacks every year. And like Dylan, you can even attest to it. I've told you, like, if you remember correctly, that draft where it was Sam Darnold, like Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Lamar. I told you the quarterbacks that I thought were going to be the best out of that draft was Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. Now, granted, Lamar,
I do remember that. It's true. Yeah.
Now, granted, Lamar kind of flew past me a little bit, but that's because I didn't know if he'd develop as a passer as well as he seems to be getting that way. So if he continues to, he's going to be great. But I didn't, so he kind of flew past me a little bit. But I every year do a pretty good job of scouting quarterbacks, and so I kind of pick who I think is going to be successful that year. So kind of going through all of the pro days, and then, like I said, I'll give you like who I think is going to be the most successful. So Jamie Newman, right off the bat, like I said, very inconsistent accuracy watching him throw the ball. There was times where he would throw it right on the dot, in motion, in kind of a fluid, in rhythm. And then there were some times where he would throw the same ball, but it would be like underthrown or like at the guy's ankles or something like that. So it's just very inconsistent in his accuracy. He also seems to, I wrote at least, he seems to have the ability to show some touch. So touch on ball for quarterback, basically just meaning that a quarterback can kind of loft a ball or kind of like put enough touch quotations on a ball that the ball ends up perfectly in the spot. So you're not like gunning it in, you're not lobbing it in, but it's just this perfect like touch throw that, you know, like when you put it into a spot, it's like, ooh, that guy that was a really nice touch on that throw. So he had some ability to show that. There was like one or two passes that I was like, man, I can see it. I can see the flash. It's there. It just wasn't consistent enough to put him anywhere near the top of the list as far as quarterbacks. Now he does have some running ability, but again, the running ability isn't close enough in the comparison to like a Trey Lance or like a Justin Fields to be enough to give him a little bit of a boost. So in my opinion, he's at the bottom of my list. Just because of that. He's also seems too much of a project. He does have some zip on his ball, so zip meaning that he's throwing the ball kind of on a line, so the ball doesn't get a lot of altitude or air on it. It's more of kind of a zips in. That's he does have some zip on his ball. It's just not enough touch, not enough prettiness on the deep passes, and sometimes he doesn't see defenders. Like I watched a couple of interceptions where he threw a ball to an open receiver, but if you actually looked at the defense, he wasn't open because there was a defender, corner safety lurking near him where he basically just undercut the route and intercepted it. So I saw that a couple times out of him. That's why he's at the bottom of my thing. I think his peak is probably a good backup in the league. I think that's pretty much where he's going to be. I don't think he's a starter unless you'd really have to unlock something out of him and really develop his passing to make him into something. But I really just think he's more of a project or too much of a project to do that with any team in the NFL. So I really see him more of as a day 3 pick where he's a backup, basically. Then we move over the next one on my list that I have as far as rankings would be Kyle Trask. So good old Kyle Trask.
Future Bears quarterback.
Oh God, please don't.
Do you hate that idea?
So okay. So I was actually surprised at yes, he is second lowest on this ranking as far as quarterbacks go, and I believe I have 7 quarterbacks that I reviewed. So he is ranked 6th on this list of 7. Yes, he is intriguing. My only issue with him, or I think I 8 quarterbacks, so he's number 7 on the list. He's intriguing. He just is inconsistent. That's really the biggest issue. So what I have some notes on. So one, he's as you can see right there on the board, he's 6'5". He measured in at 236, hand size of 10 1/8, which is good size. He's got the prototypical pocket passing with a little bit of athleticism like form. Yeah. So anyways, I just don't feel confident enough with Kyle Trask. I do think though that he does have starter potential and a decent starter potential. He's just a project. He's just somebody that you're going to have to sit for a year or two and develop. And if you actually develop him well, I think you could develop him into something. I just don't think that it's as high potential wise as anybody else above him on the list. But I do think that I was surprised happily by the throws that I was seeing. So things I wrote down, the one thing he did throw a clean ball. And what I mean by a clean ball is when you see a tight spiral going into the receiver. Tight spiral is easier to catch. When you don't throw a clean ball, a little harder to catch, just kind of a little thing. It's not that big of a deal, but throwing a nice clean ball is what you see out of the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Mannings, all those type of quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers. So that is a little iffy. Now, he did have some zip on his throws. So again, kind of line driving some balls. Those are good on hitch routes, timing routes, out routes, in routes, slants, things like that, where the ball needs to get out of your hand pretty quick. It needs to get to the receiver quickly in order to catch the defender off guard or catch him in that 1 second where the defender is behind him. So that's interesting. That's good. That's a mark for him. He did have some touch as well. I did see some touch on some plays on some balls that he threw where I did go, wow, that was actually that was a pretty throw. He didn't do it consistently enough. He did it a little bit more consistently, obviously, than Jamie Newman. That's why he's a little higher on this list. But he definitely didn't do it consistently enough in order for me to be confident in him stepping in and being a starter or anything like that. Hence why I basically said that he's kind of a project, and I think he has to sit a year or two. He is inconsistent a little bit with the ball placement across the middle of the field. So a couple of his throws across the middle of the field, he threw either behind the guy, a little bit ahead of him, a little low, sometimes a little high. It wasn't just in the pocket of the receiver, which is, right here, pretty much mid chest. That's kind of where you're trying to aim for pretty much every time that you throw the ball. He just didn't do that consistently enough over the middle of the field, which is, it should be a little easier for players because you're throwing straight ahead rather than throwing across your body or to the right. He did throw sideline balls pretty well, so out routes, things like that, hitches and everything that were kind of towards the sideline. He did throw them pretty well, flag routes. So that was at least a little bit of promising. He had some good timing there. And then he did throw decently well on the move, and across his body, he was pretty accurate. So again, those are some of kind of the marks, but I do think that because of his inconsistency in throwing accurate passes across the middle of the field, as well as accurate deep throws, his arm talent's not going to blow you away, that's for sure. But it's definitely good enough to be a starter. I just think he's a project. I think if he's developed the right way, I think you definitely have a good base for a quarterback who could develop in the NFL. It just is going to take the right place. So, I would love to see him on like the Colts or something like that, where he goes and sits behind Carson Wentz, is able to learn for a year or two, and then maybe.
Oh my God, do we want him learning from Carson Wentz though?
Well, not learning from Carson Wentz, but developing in the team.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him in the place like the Colts, where
Frank
he can
Reich.
sit behind a guy, or like the Buccaneers, for instance. Like the Buccaneers would be great for him to sit behind Tom Brady and learn for like a year or two.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I feel like he is. My next.
Who do you think will get him? I don't know if you want to do that part.
Who do I think will go for him? I don't know. It's too early on the hype around players. Generally, when it gets closer to the draft, you can kind of tell what teams are really going to be desperate for a quarterback day 2. He's definitely a day 2 quarterback in my opinion. So round 2 is where he's going to go. I just don't know what team that'll be, because round 2 allows for some teams that are really talented to have a quarterback to get kind of cute with a pick and pick a quarterback that might be a backup that'll end up developing into a starter when that quarterback leaves. So, again, like the Buccaneers, wouldn't surprise me if they picked him in the second round, or the Colts picking him in the second or third round. That wouldn't surprise me. It's just, it's hard to tell right now unless we get closer to the draft, in which then there's like some really hype around these guys. So, yeah, I don't want to play that game just yet, but we'll say that enough. So, all right.
Okay.
Okay. So the next quarterback, which is it's gonna be a little surprising, and it's not Kellen Mond. Actually, I know. I actually think it's Mac Jones.
Damn, you're going against the media hype machine then.
I know.
Godspeed.
I know.
I thought we reviewed his film for. I was actually on that.
Well, okay. So let me clarify some things. This is where we're getting into starter in the NFL potential. Like, this is where we're getting to where and then a couple guys here. So my ranking kind of encompasses everything. So Mac Jones is 5. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm actually going to change that. Not Mac Jones right now. I'm going to go Justin Fields. Yeah.
Wow, that's huge.
I'm going to do that as an Ohio State fan. I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say Justin Fields here. That's what I'm going to say at 5. Now, or 6. I keep messing up my rankings. I should have actually wrote the number next to him. Anyways, I'm going Justin Fields here. The reason why I'm going Justin Fields here, there's a lot of, what I kind of looked at the quarterbacks is, I looked at their pro days and how they produced, and then I looked at some of the game film against good teams that they played, so that way they're actually playing some NFL talent on defense, and kind of seeing how they reacted and everything like that. Now, I also incorporated a lot of the outside stuff too, leadership, work ethic, game, being working in and out of the pocket, reading defenses, things like that. Reason why
Yeah.
Justin Fields falls this far for me is I don't know if Justin Fields has the off. He almost kind of feels like a little bit of a who's Dwayne Haskins. So
Okay.
from what I've heard from people around the league that are looking at him is basically that he seems to be essentially the last one in, first one out kind of guy in the workroom or workout rooms.
Okay.
So that doesn't bode well as a quarterback. Just because as a quarterback, you have to have the 100% live and die. I'm a quarterback. I live and breathe it every single day in order to be as good as all these guys in the NFL, like, the Russell Wilsons, the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's, all those players that are playing right now. In order to be that good, you have to live and breathe football and quarterback. Justin Fields, to me, has a little, and I follow him because again, I'm a Ohio State fan. He has a little bit too much of the issues outside of the game and in the locker room that kind of scare me for basically him developing. Because when you're developing as a quarterback in the NFL, you have to be the person who is, again, the first in, last one out, in the weight room, in the film room. You have to be watching extra film all the time. There's always more stuff for you to learn, that kind of thing. And I just feel like he doesn't have it in him to do that part of the job. And then the other thing too is the big knock is, as an Ohio State fan, I've watched plenty of him basically being very inconsistent at times with his production. So there was plenty of times where I would watch him in games and I would go, wow, that guy's clearly one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in college football and should be drafted one of the top 2 or 3 picks. Now, there's other games where I look at him and I go, I don't understand why Justin Fields is making that throw or making that decision, or why isn't he throwing it to that guy? Or why is it that he throws an accurate 45-yard down the field pass and then can't hit a guy 15 yards down the field in the middle up the seam? That's how I feel about Justin Fields. That's part of the problem. That's part of the reason why I've had such an issue with him. So now watching his film and watching his play, yes, he's super athletic. He's built very similar to like a Cam Newton, except for just a couple, 2 inches shorter. He's built his running in college football was actually a lot more surprising than you would think. He has a little bit more mobility and athleticism and kind of just overall evasiveness than you would be surprised to see. He's also ran a 4.43, so yes, he does have the speed, but his accuracy is very spotty. He throws some passes with touch, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he hits it right on the mark, sometimes he doesn't. And now I will say that his throwing motion too is a little quirky. Doesn't seem as smooth as some other guys. He does also lack zip on his ball, so being able to throw it in kind of hard to a guy, to me, that's part of the problem. I just don't see him as a guy who's going to step in and be a starter day one and change everything around for your organization. I think he's a guy ideally that would be able to sit. So,
Okay. So you're thinking 49ers are not taking him at 3.
See, that's the problem is I think that he might be like, I feel like the hype might be there enough for him to be taken, but I don't think they're going to take him at 3. I don't think that, because I've heard that the 49ers are in love with Mac Jones, and that they, like, if they didn't get Mac Jones, they would get Trey Lance. Like, those are the 2 quarterbacks that they love.
Okay.
So that's why I don't think they'd get Justin Fields anyways. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, he'll probably end up 4th overall to the Falcons, which is probably a good situation for him because he can play kind of a style of offense that the head coach there is going to want to play, because he came over from the Titans. So he's going to want to do those safer throws like he did with Tannehill, but running the ball some, utilizing the quarterback in the running game. He'll want to do those kind of things, which Justin Fields is really, really excels at. they'll have to develop him a little bit and hope that he kind of pulls it together in the locker room and stuff like that, and pulls it together in his work ethic and off the field stuff in order to commit enough to become the player that he can be with his potential.
And you get to sit behind a grinder like Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if he gets drafted by the Falcons, he's not playing this year. Matt Ryan will be there for this year. And then next year they'll save a bunch of money if they cut Matt Ryan. So I expect that he'll probably be cut in order to start a full rebuild and kind of ignite that. Yeah. So it'll be a good year for him and a good place for him to end up because he'll be able to learn. Again, like I said, it all just depends on whether or not he puts it together. That's really.
You think he'll just retire, Matt Ryan, or do you think he'll go somewhere and try and have a Tom Brady year?
I think he'll get cut and try to go somewhere.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's my film on Justin Fields. He, like I said, had some beautiful throws, had some throws that thrown across his body. There was that one throw where he was running to the left side of the field and he threw it across his body, probably 55 yards down the field. And it was a thing of beauty. It's just, he doesn't do it consistently enough to be in my top 4 or 5 quarterbacks. So that's why he ends up here. But okay. Then next is, yes, Mac Jones. Now, I don't want to say that Mac Jones is a bad quarterback by any means, because he is a good quarterback. There's some things there's some red flags that kind of go up for me around him now that I've kind of examined him a little bit more.
Is it that his middle name is McCorkle?
I mean, yeah, that doesn't help. But I mean, you can see his measurables, 6'2.5", 217. His hands, 9 inches, so solid. He ran a 4.7, which isn't too bad for a quarterback that really isn't mobile. But I think that's part of the problem, is I think that he's not very mobile. So he's kind of that Tom Brady mold where he's able to move around enough in the pocket to make something happen, but you're not expecting him to really get outside the pocket and do something with the ball all the time. Like, he might have flashes of that, but you're not expecting him to do that most of the time, if not all the time. So that's one thing I will say. His arm strength is definitely not elite. You're not looking at him to throw a 60-yard bomb down the field. That's not going to surprise you. It's not going to blow you away. He does have some touch, though, and he does throw a very catchable ball. So what I mean by a catchable ball, which I'll talk about again with, a little bit of a teaser, Trevor Lawrence, obviously, is a catchable ball is a ball that is just is receiver friendly. So the ball is kind of either lobbed in, and so it's right there, or they're able to just, it's a ball where it's like put in a great spot for a receiver to make a catch. It's not thrown a little bit behind them. It's not thrown a little bit in front of them. It's not thrown at them too hard where they have to really, pay attention. It's not over their head. It's not lower at their knees. It's pretty much generally in the chest area, and it's a very good catchable ball. Now, his only things is that when I did watch him throw some deep balls, even in his pro day where he was, on not being rushed by anybody or anything like that, his deep throws were a little spotty as far as his accuracy. He didn't have as much accuracy as I would have liked to see out of a quarterback being talked about probably going 3 overall to the 49ers. Now, one thing I will say about Mac Jones, though, is he's accurate within, a 20-yard zone. He's able to make very accurate throws and very timely throws. And then the other thing that Mac Jones does very well, as far as a little bit better probably than most of the prospects on this list, and even some of the ones that are rated higher than him, is he does read defenses very well. And his preparation is he excels at preparation over what a lot of the other quarterbacks are. So with him, you're definitely getting a quarterback who's ready to step in day one and be your starter. My only issue is that I don't think his ceiling is as high as the people ahead of him. And I don't even think his ceiling is as high as potentially a Justin Fields. I just think that his floor is so high that it's going to be hard for him to fail in the NFL because of his preparation, because of his accuracy within 20 yards, because of his ability to learn and develop and his work ethic. He's just not going to go away, essentially. Like, he'll be a good starter in the NFL. I just don't think that he'll end up putting a team over the edge. Like, I don't think he's going to ever be a top 7 quarterback in the league, top 8 quarterback in the league. He might have the best year of his career and be, top 8 or 7 in the league as far as compared to everybody else. But I think generally he's probably going to be in that middle tier of like ranked 10 to 20 as far as quarterbacks go, which is a good spot to be in. I mean, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that are in that zone, and getting a quarterback in that zone that can also read defenses and win games for you is difficult. It's just I don't think he has the other things as far as athleticism, fluidity in the pocket, his arm strength, his accuracy deep. Those are the things that don't make him elite, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. I liked his film when we went through it. I guess it was a highlight tape. I don't know. You got me kind of sold up on him and all the hype circles, but I guess we'll find out soon enough.
I do think that if he fell in the draft and was available for the Bears to trade up for, I would do it just because I think he'll step in and be good. And I think that, again, with his preparation and everything like that, you'll have a quarterback every week that consistently puts you in a position to win games. It's just, I don't think that he is good enough to be a top 5, top 10 quarterback in this league. But I do think that he's never going to be a backup, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's where I got him. The next quarterback on this list, which is actually kind of surprising, that I'll put in there is Kellen Mond.
Perfect. Yeah, I guessed it right.
Yep, got it pulled up. So I really like Kellen Mond a lot. I don't understand kind of the lack of talk around him. It was funny because I've heard the name and I've always thought, it's just a guy who's going to go in the second round, third round, not really going to be a good player in the league, more of just a college guy. Well, if you watch film on Kellen Mond, he will surprise you because he surprised the hell out of me when I was watching. So I watched him in a couple different games, one of them being against Clemson, which obviously Clemson. Yeah, so going against Clemson, good talent on the defense, consistently going against, top draft picks. And I just watched him actually make some throws that are really, honestly incredible. And I think there is a video that I think I would like for you to pull up. Let me just check really quick to make sure. But I will say that what I loved about Kellen Mond is that he just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Like, he's very accurate with this ball and everything like that, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Yeah, so if you could look up Kellen Mond versus Clemson all throws on YouTube, because there's a couple throws that I want to show people, because again, I don't think people really know enough about him, and I would love to show a couple clips of him just being this good, because he really is. Yeah, that's the play. So bring that full screen, and I want you to flash forward to 4 minutes and 30 seconds, because there's a throw at 4 minutes and 30 seconds that is just beautiful. You want to see what touch is on a ball? This is touch. In the face of a defender, too, that's about to sack him. He makes this throw.
Oh, hold on. I got to make this like this. Doesn't fit in the screen.
Gotcha. No worries. All right. So watch this throw. So rolls to his right, about to get sacked, steps up. Look at that. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. In the face of a defender about to hit him. I mean, he gets hit like after this. Like, as he's releasing this ball, he's about to get whacked by a free running linebacker. And he makes this throw over that defender's arm, but underneath the safety over top, right into his wide receiver's hands.
That's nuts.
I mean, that's what touch is. That right there is the definition of touch.
Oh, wow.
And look at it, he keeps his feet moving, square throw, everything. And then, I mean, obviously not this throw, but he makes some throws in this game that are just absurd. And then you can flash forward to 7 minutes and 10 seconds. And that's when some of the more fun begins on these throws, because so he throws this first pass, and now this isn't complete, this pass right here, but I mean, the ball placement on this pass, there's nobody getting to that ball except for the receiver. And it's a very catchable ball. He just has a shorter wide receiver there. And that's a very catchable ball. And then watch this play. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's just stupid. It's just, I don't know why this guy's not getting talked about. I don't understand it. I watch his film and I just kept watching him make throws like this and against good teams. And I just go, I don't know what the problem is here. Recognizes the blitz coming over, runs out to his left to extend the play, somehow makes the throw across his body with enough touch on it to just land perfectly into the receiver's hands underneath. He doesn't throw it too high or too hard in order for the defender above to make a play. He just does.
Oh my
these
God.
things.
That even looked like a wild throw, but it was on target. Like when it came out, it looked like it was going to be bad.
Yeah, and I
That's
mean he
like
threw it high, so
it's on a rope.
it's yeah, he threw yeah, it was on a rope, and he also threw it a little high too. So really, the wide receiver is going to be able to get to that ball. He just he just consistently in this film, like look at that, shakes off the defender. He has his eyes down. If you go back a couple seconds too, that's the other thing too that I don't think people realize is he has his eyes down the field the entire time. He's not looking. He's not looking at the guy who's literally about to sack him. Like watch right here, he gets grabbed. Where is his helmet? His
Still
eyes are
forward.
still looking at that wide receiver, and he makes the throw. Like that play would not happen for a lesser quarterback. That right there is the type of play. And the reason why I put him above Mac Jones is because he's making that play. Like I don't think Mac Jones is making that play, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just that's like Mac Jones didn't get pressured enough in college to be able to see it. That was a weird tackle. I gotta point out. But yeah, he just continues to make these throws that are just look at this. Like that right there looks like yeah, that was slightly overthrown, but it's slightly overthrown. I mean, it's not like we're talking when we get to the NFL and there's receivers that have the speed and ability to catch that ball, they're going to catch that ball.
Yeah.
Like he just consistently is throwing. He steps up in the pocket, makes throws. He's not pressured at all by any, or he's not like affected by any pressure that comes up the middle. He just steps up the pocket, he throws a ball. It's funny because one of the only criticisms that I've seen of him was Chris Sims talking about him and basically said that he thinks that Kellen Mond might be a little too robotic because he's just like which is like that's and he even laughed when he said it because it's like that being a criticism is like kind of ridiculous because like it's just he's so good. He just doesn't make bad throws really. Like he's consistent. He does not, feign in pressure whatsoever. I mean, 1st and 15, down by 8, 7.5 minutes left on the clock, and he's still driving the ball down the field, trying to make something happen with a team that is less talented than Clemson.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, look right there. Like he looks down, sees his progression, nobody's open, dumps it off to the running back, doesn't take a sack. And yeah, that play went for negative yardage, but I mean, that's not gonna happen all the time. See, that was like one of the first plays that looked like it was overthrown. And really, I think if you look at I think the wide receiver like slid on the ground. I don't think he actually had his footing underneath him. Yeah, he's just I mean, he's stepping up he's like that was a drop that should have been caught, and that will be caught in the NFL. But he just steps up into the pocket.
God, he does look like a robot now that you point that out.
Huh?
He looks like an NPC resetting.
Yeah.
Right here.
He's just that's what I mean. He's unbelievably talented and he has a good arm, he has good touch, he has good zip on the ball when he needs to. He reads defenses pretty well. He senses pressure well and handles with it well. He doesn't freak out. He doesn't, he's pretty calm in the pocket. Even when he's scrambling around, running away from the pressure, he's still looking downfield, keeping his eyes downfield for the receiver. And when he runs, I mean, he can run. So it's one of those where I don't understand why enough teams or enough talk hasn't been around Kellen Mond. I just, and you know what's funny is, you know who he just met with?
Who?
The Bears.
Really?
Oh yeah, he just had a meeting with the Bears. He talked about it in a press conference. He mentioned that he met with the Bears.
Okay.
I would love Kellen Mond.
Where is he projected to be able to like fall down to?
Probably late first, early second.
Late first, early second. Okay.
So if you're the Bears and you really love him, take him at 20, which I would actually be happy with. I think I'd be okay with that.
Oh my God, they would get clowned so hard. I would love for it to go not be the case, but I feel like draft night they'll get clowned so hard.
They might, but I'm telling you, we're gonna get a quarterback, especially because he's not going to be expected to produce right away. Yeah, that was unbelievable pass interference. That's why he threw that ball. Yeah, that's the other thing is he's not going to be expected to play right away. So that's why I would love him on the Bears because he would sit behind Andy Dalton. And yeah, Andy Dalton having him as quarterback is going to not be great. See, look, it shrugs it off and makes this throw. I mean, was that a touchdown? I mean, that's ridiculous. If that's a touchdown, that's ridiculous. This throw's absurd if that's a touchdown. Look at this. I mean, look at this.
Doesn't even look.
Shakes it off. And then look at this throw. I can't believe that.
That's actually wild that like you're able to betray your instincts right here and not immediately look to the side of you or move your head at all.
No, he didn't even flinch when that guy grabbed him. Just shook him off and then threw a touchdown pass over the center of the field with 3 guys around in the area. Like, it's just
wow,
uncanny how the ability he has.
Throws a nice ball too.
I mean, that was great. That was a great pass. Like, he had to make something happen. It was the end of the game. They probably don't get the 2-point conversion here, and that's why they ended up losing, I think. Yeah. Yeah, nothing happened. Basically, good coverage, holding. Yeah, so nothing happened there. So that's why he just tried to make something happen at the end. So that's why they ended up losing that game. But yeah, he's one of like the most least talked about prospects I've ever seen that actually has the talent that he should be talked about.
Yeah.
This you don't really care about. You could just go back to his profile. We're about to probably move on from him anyways, but I just wanted to highlight that video because it's absurd, and that's against Clemson, who has first-round talent on defense, and he's not playing against a bunch of scrubs. And it's not like he had the best wide receivers ever either. It's not like you're hearing about a wide receiver coming out of the draft from Kellen Mond or Kellen Mond's team that is going to go, top 10 or something. So he's throwing to pretty, talented players, but again, not like one of those guys that's a signature player. And so, yeah, I don't know why people aren't talking about him enough. He keeps his eyes down the field, throws wherever the receiver. He throws where a receiver can catch it. He always throws on. He throws on the run super well. He's 6'2", I think he came in at 6'2", 205 is what his measurables were at his pro day. So he does have at least the quarterback, stature or enough size. I'm glad that he's not a runner with that size. You have to put on more weight in order to be a runner. But I mean, he just makes good throws. Like, even that was kind of a weird off balance throw where he didn't really step into it. He just kind of threw it and still got it to there pretty on target.
Yeah.
So yeah, super talented. I just can't. I would love to see where he goes, and I think if he goes to the right situation, he'll definitely excel in the league, and that's why I have him above Mac Jones, is because I think he's just a higher ceiling of a player, and I don't think that he has too many flaws right now, at least watching him in college.
I like how quick his release is.
Yep, that's what I mean. There's just so much to like about him. It's funny because I've watched other games with him in it, and it's the same thing. I mean, even games where he has a bad game, it's not even really that bad. Like, it's like, yeah, there's a couple errant decisions here and there, but like, that's going to happen. You're in college, and we always talk about rookie mistakes in the NFL and stuff like that from quarterbacks. So yeah, of course he's going to make a couple of those bad decisions in college, but he doesn't generally do that. I mean, look at that throw. Like, that's coming across his body, moving to the left side of the field out of the pocket, and steps up and makes that throw. And I believe it was 3rd and 8 too. So it's a guy get the first down. You're against one of the best teams in the country, and threw it to a spot where his receiver could catch it. And yeah, his receiver is probably a little smaller too, but
is he widely supposed to be a 1st-round pick?
Well, he's considered more of a day 2 guy. It's just one of those where I mean, you're watching the same film I'm watching. It's one of those where I think if some people get enough on him that he could potentially end up rising up in the rankings.
Right.
So, and even like the Buccaneers, for instance, the Buccaneers don't really have any needs whatsoever on their team, and so they could take a quarterback to be Tom Brady's successor in 3 years.
That would be wild if they did.
Yeah, and they're getting a really good player to do so.
But not even a bad decision. It'd just be interesting for them to, like, you'd think you just want to like load up on top of your already stacked team and then just try and put yourself over the edge. But if you took the opportunity, like the Packers are failing to do, of like picking a quarterback a little bit early and then hopefully just continuing that, that streak. But then again, you're also once again betting against Tom Brady retiring and getting old. So that's an interesting risky bet. It seemed like it would have worked out 4 years ago. Maybe it won't make sense in another 4 years. Who knows? Yeah,
but I mean, if it doesn't make sense and it doesn't work out in 4 years, then I don't think they're going to be complaining.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, but anyways, we'll have to move on for him, and I'll go to the next prospect who I think this is pretty much they're tied in my opinion, and it's Trey Lance. So I like a lot about Trey Lance. There's not a lot of film on him. And what I mean by that is it's one of those things where he didn't play enough. He just didn't play enough, and he's not playing against NFL type talent, which these guys in these D1 schools are. Yes, he's D1, but he's D1 Division AA or whatever it is, or 1AA. So he's not playing against those type of guys every week that can really kind of show you how he's going to do against real NFL talent when he gets in the league. But there's a lot to love about Trey Lance. And watching his pro day, it actually surprised me because there was a couple things that were kind of iffy in him when you watched his film as far as game footage that he kind of improved upon in his pro day, or at least did a little bit better than I expected. So one, what you notice right off the bat when you're watching Trey Lance is the zip that comes off that hand. I mean, he can throw a ball into a guy. You could hear, like when you watch this pro day, you could hear the ball hitting the hands of the receiver every time. He just has this ridiculous where he can throw it 30 yards down the field, 30, 40 yards down the field on a line, and the ball barely gets 7-8 yards off the ground. Like, it's ridiculous. So that's one thing that right off the bat you notice. He does have quick feet and a quick release. So he's very athletic and very fluid in the pocket, and he does move very well outside of it as well. He is a little bit more of a runner than maybe you would like in order for him to translate to the NFL. He'll have to do a little bit less of that because he was able to, and because he's faster than everybody, bigger than everybody, at that level. He's not facing, like I said, D1 guys. So he was able to kind of just tuck the ball and run whenever he wanted, and generally was faster and bigger than a lot of the guys he was going against. So that kind of is one of those things where that's really not going to fly. Now the one thing I will say though is like I said, outside of his running ability and his athletic ability, which is right there with the best of them in this draft, he has the running ability that very similar to Justin Fields. He's very quick, very athletic guy. But the one thing I will say is he has a cannon for an arm. He can throw the ball a mile. His only issue is that it's whether or not it's accurate. I mean, you can kind of see it here. He was pressured a little bit, but that's kind of what you saw at his pro day, honestly, is a couple throws like that where, he threw it a little too far. Now, I did see a couple throws where he surprised me because one of his biggest issues was throwing it deep and accurately deep. And he did a couple of throws at his pro day that were pretty impressive, honestly. And a couple throws on the move too at his pro day that were very surprising as well. He does throw the ball a little high sometimes, which can be a little bit of an issue. Just because if you air a ball in the NFL, there's always a safety lurking behind or something like that could pick it off. So throwing a ball high is a little dangerous unless you really trust your receiver or tight end that you're throwing to. You saw that again. Like, for example, I always refer to the Nick Foles and the Eagles when they won the championship. You saw Nick Foles throw the ball high a lot, but he had like an Alshon Jeffrey who's 6'3", and he had a Zach Ertz who's 6'5", who he trusted to catch the ball, and they did. So it wasn't really an issue for him. But if you're throwing the ball high to guys that you really generally don't trust, that's when it becomes an issue. So I would like to see him get the ball down a little bit on his throws. It kind of gets away from him a little bit, and that comes from the zip that he has on his ball naturally, is sometimes he zips it in a little too hard, and that's where he airs the ball and goes high with it. Now, I will say that he did have some touch passes that really showed that he could do it consistently, and it's just not yet consistent enough to put him in the top two, which are above him, in obviously Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. They just do it a lot better and a lot more consistently than him. But he does have a lot of flashes. It's just he just doesn't have a lot of film. That's really the biggest issue about Trey Lance. He seems to be more of a project. So Mac Jones, for instance, who's lower on the list, I think could start day one for the 49ers, which is where I think he's going to go at pick 3. I just think that Trey Lance is a lot more talented and has a lot more potential. I just don't think he should start day one. So, for example, I think if you went to the Panthers at 8, if you went to the Panthers at 8 or something like that, I think that would be a good spot for him to land, because I think him landing in a spot where he can sit behind a guy for a year will really benefit him in his production as well as in his development, because I don't think he's ready to start right now, because I think there's too much in his game that he needs to iron out before he is able to step onto a field and really kind of show off. So like I said, a lot to love about the guy, a lot to like. There's a lot of that's what I'm talking about right there. I mean, that's a pass that you should be able to complete in the NFL because your guy's wide open. He beat both defenders. See, and then what he does is he makes it up for in his legs. You know, he misses that throw, but then he's able to get the first down the next play on it with his legs.
Yeah.
So, and that's where, like, as much as I love Trey Lance, that's why he's not top 2 on this tier, you know, of quarterbacks. But he's got a very, like, you know, NFL body, you know, standing basically at 6'3", you know, 224. It's good size for a guy. Not too thin to run the ball, so he will have some success running it in the NFL. It's just I think he'll need to develop his passing game enough to be effective. But I think he has the potential to do it. At least the higher potential and more likely to do it, I think, than Justin Fields.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. And my next one on the list of quarterbacks, number 2 on my list is Trevor Lawrence.
Oh.
I don't think he's number 1. And I can go over that in a moment as to why I don't think he's number 1. Now, do I love Trevor Lawrence and everything he does as far as a quarterback? Yes. My only issue with Trevor Lawrence is I did not see him in games enough ignite his team. That sounds kind of iffy as far as a criticism. But what I mean by that is I don't think that he has the moxie or the swagger in order to walk into an organization and change it basically and have the attitude to basically carry an organization on his own. So what I, you know, in comparison, I would think like a Baker Mayfield, for instance. Baker Mayfield, definitely not as talented as Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback goes. But what Baker Mayfield did have that made him, you know, better suited for Cleveland is he had the attitude and the moxie and the chip on his shoulder to walk into a team that won 1 game in 2 seasons and basically, you know, act like he should be there, which he should. It's just that's what he needed in order for them to really kind of ignite around him. I will say though that Trevor Lawrence did a lot well as far as everything else. So when you watch this pro day, one of the things that will obviously jump right out at you is that every single throw is on target. I'm not kidding you. I don't think I saw a throw that wasn't placed perfectly in the chest of the receiver in the pro day, which is a good sign for the actual rest of the, you know, game, you know, play and everything like that. So that's why I say that he should be drafted 1 overall. I'm not gonna, you know, based on everything he's done and what he is as a quarterback and everything like that, I get him going number 1 overall. I get it. He's definitely gonna be a quarterback in the NFL that has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback for years and years to come. And he's not gonna fail. That's what I will say. He's not gonna fail in the NFL. I don't think he has the moxie or the attitude to walk in and change an organization like a Baker Mayfield did. But I do think that he has the ability to consistently every week win games, make the throws that you need to win games. Like I said, he's got to have a talented offense around him in order for him to excel. I don't think he could just do it on his own. Like, I don't think he's one of those guys like a Joe Burrow, for instance, last year. One of the things that Joe Burrow had over Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, and again, if these two were in the draft together, Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, I would take Joe Burrow. And the reason why is because Joe Burrow has that attitude. He has that moxie of walking into a Bengals organization. And yeah, he got injured. But before that, he was making throws and really basically helping make that, Bengals team not terrible. So Trevor Lawrence is going to be great in the NFL.
I mean, like, I know that this is just what I read off of what was going on, but like Joe Burrow was projected to be like a 6th round pick before the season that he had. And it literally propelled him up that much because it was, I guess one of the greatest of all time, but still that's crazy. That big of a jump that quickly.
Well, that's what I said is he was a backup quarterback at Ohio State, and he actually lost his job to Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Dwayne Haskins went on the next season to throw 50 touchdowns or 51, or score 51 touchdowns. So, I mean, not like Ohio State made the wrong choice. It's just that Joe Burrow went to, LSU and became Joe Burrow. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Joe Burrow has the attitude to walk into an organization like the Bengals and change it around. The Bengals who don't have a freaking indoor practice facility. Like that's the type of team that he was walking into, and he's going to change that culture and make them good no matter what they put out there with him. So that's how I feel about Joe Burrow, and that's how I feel, about like I said, a Baker Mayfield. And that's my only gripe against Trevor Lawrence, and why I wouldn't take him above my number one quarterback option.
Yeah.
Which leads me into my number one quarterback option, which is obviously Zach Wilson.
Your resident Disney Channel quarterback.
Yes, he 100% looks like he should be in a Disney Channel thing. Trevor Lawrence is sunshine, and Zach Wilson is every single Disney Channel.
Most punchable face there is.
Exactly, 100%. Now, I will say, though, that what Zach Wilson has over Trevor Lawrence and why he's the first overall pick, can you guess what he has, in my opinion, over Trevor Lawrence?
You think he has moxie?
I think he does. That's why. That's the difference. I think Zach Wilson has the attitude. I think Trevor Lawrence is a perfect fit for the Jaguars because they already have some talent there. They're not a terrible team. They just don't have any quarterback play whatsoever last year. I mean, they had Mike Glennon as their freaking quarterback. So they just need a quarterback to come in and actually produce. And they'll be, next year, I think they'll probably be, 7-10, 8-9 team. So with Zach Wilson, though, I think he's a perfect fit for the Jets because I think the Jets need a player to come in and change the organizational attitude around, as well as, come in and actually be, produce as a quarterback and make all the throws you want. Now, when you watch Zach Wilson's film, as well as when you watch his pro day, what you understand is that Zach Wilson has zip on his ball where he can throw a line drive into a player. And he also has the ability to throw a perfect touch pass where he fits a ball into a tight window and you're really surprised by it, And I think the zip along with the touch pass is also a deadly combination that really helps him to be the number one quarterback on my list. And then on top of it, you throw in that he has that moxie and attitude. You throw in that he's very accurate within his passes. Whether it be down the field, whether it be short out routes, short in routes, slants, throwing up the seam. He just is very accurate. He throws in rhythm. And when he gets into a rhythm, it's almost one of those things where like you watch him complete 10 passes in a row because it happens all of a sudden and you go, oh my God, he's completed 10 passes in a row. I didn't even realize it. Like, it's just, that's the rhythm he can get into. And I mean, you just look at his arm and stuff like that. I mean, that's a great pass. That's fantastic. And that's what he did all season long. He's also amazing at moving and throwing the ball. He actually seems almost more comfortable moving around in the pocket and throwing off of like an off foot or movement than he does just throwing it off like his normal set position, it seems. Like I wrote down in my thing watching his film and watching his pro day that I wrote amazing moving and throwing, will be a magician, aka Rodgers like in the NFL. And like I said, the reason why I think that is because I think that he just has this weird like ability to just make throws from weird throwing awkward movements and positions where it doesn't matter what pressure he's in, doesn't matter what he's, dealing with. He's going to be able to make the throw. He's going to be able to, do everything you ask him to do because he's that good. Now, my only thing with him is I would like to see him read a defense a little bit more, just because it seemed like at BYU he made a lot of great timing throws, but that's more of being in sync with his receivers and everything. And watching his pro day, he did seem to throw a little behind some receivers. Like Trevor Lawrence threw it perfectly in the pocket of the receiver, but Trevor Lawrence didn't have the zip that Zach Wilson has or can have on some of his throws. And then I think also he also has the ability, like I said, to be able to move around, I think a little bit better. I think a little bit better in the pocket than Trevor Lawrence moving as far as making throws off balanced. So
Sure. I
those
mean,
are
that's
the
the
two.
general impression that I've got from him, but I haven't watched like any. I haven't watched very little film, but he does seem to have that. I don't know if it's just his stature or whatever, or like his movement or something, but it does seem kind of like that, like a Rodgers comparison, like a throw like that.
Yeah, I mean that right there. That's what I'm talking about right there. Fading to his left, throwing across his body, throws a beautiful little touch pass right over the linebacker, because it is the issue right there. If you go back to that play, if he zips that ball in, it gets blocked down by the guy underneath. If he throws it too hard, it's getting intercepted by the guy behind him. He has to fit it over the guy underneath and not hard enough where he misses a receiver, or not behind him enough that the defender picks it off. That's the kind of throw that I'm talking about that he's able to make consistently. And he's able to flip it on like a switch. Like he's able to be like, okay, I need to touch pass this, touch pass. Okay, I need to like gun this in because it's a tight window. Bam, does it. Puts a zip on the ball and it's there. He throws a hitch route where a guy runs 10 yards, turns around, and the ball has to be there. It's there because he zips it in. That's what he is. That's what he has in his arsenal. And like I said, I don't think Trevor Lawrence has the zip on the ball that Zach Wilson does. But obviously Trevor Lawrence beats him in the accuracy department, but it's just everything else that Zach Wilson does, is what makes him my number one quarterback on my list, at least.
Wow, I thought that last play was going to be completed too.
Yeah.
All right.
Listen, he is human. But
yeah, no, I mean it was pass interference. It was a great throw, and that would have been caught for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So that's my quarterback list. That's where I'm at with all the quarterbacks. Maybe I'll revisit this in a little bit while I watch more and more film on them. But yeah, that's where I would list them, as basically, Zach Wilson 1, Trevor Lawrence 2, Trey Lance and Kellen Mond tied for 3, and then I think you throw in probably Mac Jones, then Justin Fields, then you have your Kyle Trask and Jamie Newman at the end.
Okay. Now I know you were super high on Kyle Pitts, and did you see the thing that like from his one of I don't know his pro day or whatever, but he has the biggest wingspan of any tight end ever at 83 3/8.
I mean,
inches.
listen, like I said, he's one of the 2 players in the draft. Him, I might even throw Zach Wilson in this combination, but just because he's a quarterback, and quarterbacks in situations like that can always be iffy. The 2 bona fide superstars in this draft that are going to be superstars no matter what you do, they will be, are Penei Sewell and Kyle Pitts. And it's because Kyle Pitts is that good. He's so absurd as a human being. And to think that he's a tight end and not a wide receiver is ridiculous as well. And what that means is that teams are going to be able to use him basically how Travis Kelce's used for the Chiefs. And I am not lying when I tell you that Kyle Pitts in his first year is going to be a top, probably top 7 tight end in the league. And then his second year is probably going to be a top 5.
Yeah, that would be that'd be fun to see. Do you see oh god, who was it that oh no, who am I thinking of? I think they're pick number 6 now that they maybe like they cannot possibly pass him up.
Well, you have the Bengals at 5, who probably everybody around the the NFL is basically thinking that the Bengals are going to go Penei Sewell in order to get another tackle position, because they really need to help the offensive line, and getting, again, one of my 2 bona fide superstars, and a left tackle who basically will be a left tackle for you for the next 10 years. And then you can move Jonah Williams over to right tackle, and now you have your 2 tackles set for the next 5 to 10 years. That's obviously a very intriguing move for a team. Now, the other issue is that the Bengals could go a Kyle Pitts and get Joe Burrow, a guy who's going to be his number 1 target for the next 5 to 10 years as well. That could be a move too, and I wouldn't doubt that one bit.
Huh? I'm sorry, it was Miami.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then Miami at 6. Also, they need a wide receiver. So a lot of people think that they might go, because they traded back up into 6, they're able to probably get one of the top 3 wide receivers in the draft, which is oh god, what's his name? The guy from LSU, Jamar Chase, Jamar
Right.
Chase, and then you have Devontae Smith, and then you have Jalen Waddle. Those are your top three guys. Dolphins move into 6 because even if the Bengals for some reason took one of those receivers, which they're not going to, but if they did, then they would still get one of the other two. So they basically have their pick of the three wide receivers in the best three wide receivers. And, you have Jamar Chase, who's kind of a complete package. Devontae Smith, who's a complete package, but again, his size is a little worrying as far as getting hit in the NFL on, plays. I wouldn't trust him really going across the middle of the field or, tight throws where he's got to go up for the ball and gets hit or something like that. I'd be a little worried about injury. But then you have Jalen Waddle, who's got this ridiculous speed. So those are your three options for the Dolphins at 6. But if Kyle Pitts is there, I don't know. They have Mike Gesicki at tight end, who's been playing really well and who had a great year last year. So
Just
I don't
imagine
think.
two of them though.
I know that's the thing
Be
is,
insane.
do you do the Patriots route and what the Patriots just did, which is get the two best tight ends in the market and have one of the two most talented tight ends in the league on your same team? Maybe you do that, with the Dolphins, and maybe they get to two massive targets and Mike Gesicki and Pitts. I don't know. I feel like the Dolphins are gonna. I feel like the pick is either Jamar Chase or Pitts. Those are the two options, basically. Those are the
Yeah.
two that they're gonna go with.
It just feels like since they have that luxury pick, it would be really good to see them do that. Like something to really just like stack their offense like around two if they really are all in on him. But that'd be cool to see. I just want to pull up some of the. Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I do think they're all in on Tua. I will say that. I 100% believe that they're all in because he was taken in the top 5. And when you take a quarterback in the top 5, you're not going to give him you're not going to not give him the opportunity to excel for a season and see what you can do when you put the best talent around him that you can. So I think they're all in on Tua for sure next season. That's why I think that they're going to go with an offensive weapon. I just don't know if I don't know if Kyle Pitts is too intriguing enough to draft him, or if they are going to go with what their need is, which is basically getting a wide receiver, which I think they end up getting Jamar Chase, if that's the case.
And we just got a follow from Liam the Turtle. Thank you for the follow. I also want to bring up on just on a couple of the headlines I saw that were up here. My favorite one. This is a little bit early for April 1st, but that's got to be my favorite titles I've seen in a while. Why don't defensive linemen just line up backwards and backpedal rush towards the quarterback? The defensive linemen would be completely unblockable due to the block in the back rule, as they are only showing their back to the O-line. Because of this, they would have a free rush on the quarterback, and the O-line can only block them towards the quarterback, as that is where their chests are facing. This seems pretty foolproof to me, and I don't understand why teams have not tried this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That seems like a very obviously that makes. Oh, I can't. I hate it. But
that's your warning for April 1st. It's coming up. So
yeah. No, I know. Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a very reasonable option. I mean, obviously, I would just draft guys with big wingspans and just tell them run backwards and have your arms out ready to go. And if you slightly think you've caught the and I would give them gloves and spray stick them on the gloves, so that way if they even brief snare the quarterback with a finger, they can yank him down, and that's it. Game over.
Yeah, it's promising.
We solved it. This is it. This is pass rush for every single team.
And then some of the bigger headlines too. That I thought was interesting. The Seahawks giving Tyler Lockett that big extension.
Yeah,
kind of signals they think they'll be sticking around for a while.
Yeah, they're trying to keep Russell Wilson happy and keep him in, Seattle, obviously, and his favorite target's been Tyler Lockett. Obviously DK Metcalf had a fantastic year last year, and so, obviously that's probably one of his favorite targets too, but his best target, the one that he's had the most chemistry with and always seems to be in sync with, is Tyler Lockett. So re-signing Tyler Lockett for a 4-year deal, which is not absurd. I mean, what? It's
I thought it'd be way more.
Yeah,
honestly.
14. I think it's because he's a little older, so you're paying for, I think this contract goes into his 30s because I think he's 27, 26 maybe, and he's a speed guy, so that also kind of plays in a factor. But either way, it's a good signing. They needed to keep him. You're not going to get rid of one of your weapons for Russell Wilson and then try to convince Russell Wilson to stay. So they had to re-sign him, and they did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean that one popped up. That was the thing about Kyle Pitts that I brought up. I thought was interesting. Not a whole lot of crazy things really. Anything game changing? More Deshaun Watson shit. That's about it. Nothing else
scroll
actually
back
like
up
free agency.
right there. So it says Jamar Chase has spoken to the Bengals, who are picking at 5 on the possibility of uniting with Joe Burrow. So that's where that would be interesting. Because the other thing too is that if Jamar Chase is gone for the Dolphins, then yeah, I think they go Kyle Pitts because he's the next best thing. So I don't know. That would be interesting. I will have to see. I just think the Bengals are gonna have. I think Penei Sewell's too hard to pass up there for the Bengals. I think I had in my last mock Kyle Pitts going to them, but that's before all the trades, and I don't know. I think that with like reading the tea leaves, it feels like the Bengals are probably gonna go with Penei Sewell, but I don't know. We'll see when we get closer.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah, that's learned for nothing new there.
Okay. The last thing I think last two topics that I want to talk about. So one, I want to finish off the NFL conversation. A couple things I want to talk about. One thing I thought was interesting is the 17 game season obviously got voted in. I don't understand the point of having a 17th game. I get, yeah, it's more football, and yeah, as a football fan, you should want more football. But like, I also support the players, and I really don't get the ability. Like, I don't get adding another game. Like, what am I gonna find out with an extra game? That like the Chiefs are good enough to win another game? Like, the Bears suck even more, that we can watch them suck for another game. Like, I don't want to watch another game of us being terrible.
So
and like,
so the thing with it that I thought made the most sense, I don't think this was sent through. I don't think it is, at least as far as I've seen. But 2 bye weeks is something that people I think have been wanting if it was going to get expanded, and feel like for a lot of times your bye week can like make or break your season.
Yeah, I mean, look
depending
at
on injuries.
Was the Steelers that had a bye week at like week 4 or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's a 17th game, I think obviously, okay, the concession would be there's 2 bye weeks, so you can get time to catch up on injuries, and it works out well for everyone. Then that makes a lot of sense fully for it. I don't think the extra bye week is baked in. I think that's not something that's still going to happen, which makes the 17 game season even crazier.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know what like the minimum bye week you can get. I mean, like week 4, I guess, was with 16 games. If that stays the same, that's just like a terrible decision. We'll Google this.
Obviously, it's for money. We all know why they did it. The owners did it for money. That's the whole point. I mean, the players don't want it, and that's the reason why the players don't want it, is because the players don't want an extra week to get injured, or have like they already. And I love all the complaints that were coming out against I think people were like messaging the running, what's his name, the running back for the Saints.
Alvin Kamara. Yeah.
Alvin Kamara. People were like tweeting at Alvin Kamara like crap about like, it's a child's game, you're lucky to play it. I'm like, dude, shut up. I'm like, it's like they work their whole lives to get to this point, and then they work their asses off every single like week. Don't tell me that like these guys want to play another game where they could potentially get injured again. And guess what? When a guy gets injured, what does the team do? Oh, team doesn't pat them on the back and go, you're okay, buddy. We'll give you that contract extension you wanted. No, the team goes, all right, see you, buddy. You're injured. Like, I don't want damaged goods. And then that's what happens. And so that's why people are pissed off about this. That's why players are pissed off about this. They put in work every single week, ridiculous amount of work. They put in a ridiculous amount of work in the off season. And what do they get for it in return? They get a 17th game for no reason.
Yeah. So Liam, yes, being a Bear fan does hurt. You should see. It hurts
extremely. It's just like I said. One of my favorite comments that I made. If you go to follow us on our YouTube channel, at the Dylan Dylan podcast, I have the clip of us talking about the Bears, and I mean, one, it's great for the comedy and humor alone that I have on there, but in that clip. But one of my favorite comments that I made that entire that entire clip was, great, now we get to watch the Bears suck for another week. Like it's like 17 game season, woo, now I get to watch the Bears suck against who? Oh, the Raiders? Great, let's watch us get beat by the Raiders again.
Thank God this made it into being the thumbnail. That's awesome. Of all the frames that could have been on here.
I saw that pop up as a possibility for the thumbnail, and I made it the thumbnail because I was like,
Okay,
that's
good.
it's,
Good,
it's
good.
not.
Yeah.
So,
and did you see that the Bears were the only team to vote against the 17-game season?
I did. Shout out to the Bears. Let's go. See,
Yeah.
the Bears don't even want to suck for another week.
I know, that's like, what else could they be doing? That's what it has to be for me too.
I don't know. That's the one decision that the Bears have made that I've actually supported.
Yeah.
Besides the signing of Cairo Santos.
Yeah.
So,
Ed O'Donnell got a little bit of cash.
Yeah, I remember that. They had to resign everybody on special teams because they had one of the only things that was actually solid on that team was special teams. So, yeah, look at Kellen Mond got a cannon. I see a connection. Yeah, see, Kellen Mond, the Aggies football quarterback, said I can see a connection between me and the Bears,
right?
Who have been in touch. Again, would absolutely love if I heard that the Bears drafted. Yeah, I think for me at this point as a Bears fan, because my expectations are not very high for the Bears, I think if the Bears drafted left tackle Christian Darrisaw with the 20th pick and then traded up in the early second round to get Kellen Mond, I would be ecstatic. Give me that draft all day, every day.
Yeah.
So.
Such a stupid clip. I thought it was so funny.
What?
Everyone made a big deal out of this, and it doesn't even know if this could line up or anything.
Oh.
He literally talking to him, like he shakes his head and like, oh no, that's it.
Yeah, right. No, Bill Belichick's going, that's Tom Brady 2.0. But anyways, yeah, no, I would absolutely love that. That would be a fantastic draft. Yeah, I saw you had a pre-draft meeting with the Bears, but he's not going to be there for the Bears. I guarantee you he's probably getting drafted third overall to the 49ers. 49ers traded up to third overall because that was as high as they could go, and they're apparently in love with Mac Jones. They're probably going to draft him there.
I didn't know this was confirmed when you said this. Yeah, I thought that's
why I said it. I was like, great, we get to suck another week against what we get to play the Raiders. Oh, great, let me watch them lose against the Raiders again.
Wow, yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah. So 17-game season. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about this, but I don't know how it works to pay. I don't know if that like to just get an extra paycheck for every player, because that's one thing I thought about too. Is does that mean that there is more hit against the cap because there's an extra paycheck for each player?
I think it was supposed to be something where the extra payment comes out of revenue sharing. I think that was at least part of it.
Yeah, because I'd have to look into it more. I didn't come into it with enough research into that because I was basically focusing on the quarterbacks and watching their film. But yeah, I didn't look enough into it, but I thought that was an interesting question, like what's going to happen with the money and all that. But yeah, 17-game season, great. Yeah, I get to watch my team suck again for another week. And it doesn't make any sense again for any team whatsoever because the good teams are going to be good. So what does another week matter? And, the bad teams are going to be bad. So great.
Yeah.
Like I know obviously the owners wanted it because of money. That's the answer. And that always is going to be the answer. But it's unfortunate for the players that it ruled in this favor. And maybe their CBA is not great, but it's what we get. So I guess we get a 17th game. So as a fan, I guess we get another game to watch.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, I wanted to talk about briefly with the NFL. Two things. One, quick little statement. I want to say that I called the trades or the two teams that were going to trade. I just didn't call them trading with each other. So for anybody watching, if you watch my mock draft that I did last week, we have the clips of the 1 through 10, 11 through 20, and then 20 through 32. I said in there that I thought the two trades that were going to happen were between the Dolphins and the 49ers, not with each other. I said they were going to trade with other teams, but I did find that funny that those teams were the teams that ended up making trades. Yeah, the Eagles did make a trade, but like the two trades that I had said were going to happen did happen just with each other. Yeah. So thought that was funny. And then the other thing too that I want to put out is that you saw the thing about how the NFL announced that they're going to try to have full stadiums.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Oh. Yeah, so apparently the NFL is going to try their best to have full stadiums. Yeah, no, sorry, I just saw the comment. Yeah, Yeah, I would have. See, I agree. I would have liked. Instead of Andy Dalton having a Gardner Minshew, because at least with Gardner Minshew, he looked pretty decent last year for the Jags before they benched him because honestly he was playing too well. Um, I would have liked to see him over Andy Dalton because I know what I'm getting with Andy Dalton. But instead, we get Andy Dalton, and that's just how it is as a Bears fan. It's unfortunate. I would have liked to see Gardner Minshew. I don't know about Marcus Mariota. I don't really feel too good about Marcus Mariota. Yeah, he has some flashes here and there, and maybe with a second chance, he could produce. I just would have preferred out of that mix right there to have Gardner Minshew, but instead, we get the red, rifle who is, got a bunch of rust on the rifle and it doesn't fire straight and it's there, it's here. We put a bear symbol on it and called it our own.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so the NFL is going to try to have full stadiums with everybody there. I don't know how that'll play out. We'll see. The draft, they're doing that already, having full people there. So we'll see how the draft turns out. And if the draft turns out well, maybe then that's what they use as a, kind of guidelines or how they'll do it. But yeah, they did announce that they're going to try to have full packed stadiums.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So, hopefully there's enough time that's still possible.
Yep. And then my last thing that I'll finish off on, which I thought was interesting, I saw in the news, it literally just popped up before we started, was that Netflix spent $450 million to buy the sequels to Knives Out.
Yeah, I did see that as well too, and that's interesting to see how popular it was at theaters that they went straight to Netflix. But I guess they got the money secured, so it doesn't matter for them.
Yeah, I don't know. The movie was good. The first one was very good. I liked it a lot. It was one of those movies where I was actually entertained the whole time, and I generally am very good at guessing the endings of movies and stuff like that. So mysteries, I really am like good at figuring out. So unless the movie's a really, really good mystery that like kind of stumps me and is hard to figure out, that's when I'm like actually entertained, which I think Knives Out was for me. I don't know. How did you feel about the movie when you saw it?
Oh no, I loved it. I saw it in a small theater too, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I could see the Knives Out 2 and 3 being hopefully just as good, and if they are just as good, this money is, not too bad for them considering the first movie grossed like 320 million or something like that, 330 million.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if each movie grossed like 300 million, they would make 150 off the deal. So, I could see it easily being a thing. I just I thought that was cool. I saw that go across the media. I was like, that's interesting. I've never, Netflix making moves to make such a purchase.
I mean, from their point of view, it's kind of like the larger contract versus guaranteed. And with Netflix, they're guaranteed, mm-hmm. Especially with like no one knows how theaters are going to be coming back like post COVID. So yeah, for them, it's like true. A guaranteed check, and they could, I don't know, they don't have to make decisions that might be more popular or whatever. They just do whatever they want because they already got the bag.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So, but all right, well, that's all I got. You got anything else you want to add in before the end, or?
No, that's it. That's it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, like I said, kind of recap. We went through March Madness, we went through the bowls, NBA talk. We talked a little bit about the NFL and the kind of the changes that are going on, as well as we went through my list of the top 7/8 quarterbacks that I think in the draft and the ranking that they should be in, as well as kind of breaking apart what I've seen so far about them. So those clips will hopefully be posted by Friday or Saturday. So if you want to check out any of those individually or hear my opinion on them again, you can go ahead and check those out when those get posted over on our YouTube channel over at the Dylan and Dylan podcast.
Yep. And also for like anyone who just followed, like Liam yourself, we are going to be back here next Wednesday, right around somewhere between like 8 and 9. It's usually when we always start. So you can also come back for that. And like, yeah, you said anything else is on YouTube.
Yep.
That's it.
So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. And look forward to next week, see what topics pop up in the news. And, as always, we always talk about the end of the podcast. Let's wait and see what other crappy Bears news is going to come out. So, that'll be a little.
I can't wait till the draft.
yeah, that's coming up. So that's what we got to get ready for us. But I will be probably doing a revised mock draft very soon, just because this last one with the major trades that happened and new signings and people resigning and such like that. There's things that fluctuate, so I might do a new mock draft next week or the week after. So that's to be looked forward to as well. Kind of see what I think is going to happen post trades and free agency rush.
Okay.
Anything
All
else
right.
you want to add?
No, I feel like it's going to be me looking forward to, I guess, the draft, and there'll be a lot more content from that with a lot more things to outline.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
And then when the draft does happen, I would like to, whenever because I think the draft is like a weekend thing. So the next week we'll be able to go through and, kind of maybe do a couple video, a couple quick little brief things of going through the first round, second round, third round, because those are
we
the
could
kind of the
probably
rounds that
even do
matter.
a live thing of the draft, maybe.
Yeah, that would be fun too. We could do that potentially. Just have I don't know what day the draft is occurring on. We'll have to look into this, but that definitely would be something we'll talk about maybe next week more. If we decide to do something on that, we'll talk about it next Wednesday when we're on. But yeah, that might be something fun to do, is kind of go through it live and catch see if all the picks and all the mock drafts that we've made are correct.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. Well, this has been the Dylan and Dylan podcast. My name is Dylan.
And I'm Dylan.
And thank you everybody for joining.